Hey there, and welcome back to Inkbound, the new action roguelike strategy game by Shiny Shoe. This episode is not really an episode, it's a bit different. I originally thought about simply talking about this during the introduction for my next episode, but opted instead to separate it out. Having thought about it a little bit, I actually recorded part of it and then just realized it was taking too much time and stepped back and decided I would talk about this. So, from the title of the episode, I keep saying episode, it's really not, it's more like a informational post, maybe a review of some kind, you may be asking, what the heck am I even trying to do here? So, what is the deal with Inkbound? I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to call it misinformation, but I do want to call it information that has not been grounded in fact. There are assumptions that have been going around that I think are tainting is the wrong word. Again, another confusing kind of terminology, but basically just kind of resulting in the wrong things being peddled in like Steam reviews or YouTube content. A lot of people are kind of jumping on a bandwagon assuming that it's terrible due to a few pieces of information. So I wanted to kind of give some kind of clarity. Now, I will, when I say clarity, I am not representing the devs, but the one advantage I do have is that I follow what the devs say publicly, and I've also known them for a long time. And why that matters is because a lot of the comments, the Steam reviews, the YouTube videos, they're not reading the public Discord for Inkbound. They're not following that. And the devs are extremely communicative on there, especially since launch. They've been very vocal in describing kind of their goals, why things are the way they are, and what that means. And I wanted to kind of bring some of that forward because I think that the miscommunication is scary, right? I mean, you see things talking about a cash shop, a cosmetic shop in Inkbound, and you're like, oh gosh, they've sold out, right? A lot of the commentary kind of goes that way, but I think that there's a lot of it's just we're gonna talk about it. That's what it comes down to. I can kind of wheedle around the bit there as much as I want to. Is that even a turn of phrase? I've used that so many times in my life, I don't even know if that's real, but anyway, we're going to talk about it. And that's not the only thing. I also think that there are some changes from the demo that merit discussion and have come up as kind of like a difficulty problem with the game or something. So we'll talk about this stuff. Anyway, before I get too far ahead of myself, as always, do like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. And let's get in on this. So, yeah. The first thing I want to talk about is the difficulty of the game. So, you can kind of see stats here on the right-hand side of the screen, but the most important thing to keep in mind is that your health is a resource, or that's the intent anyway. A lot of folks who played the demo noticed that the change from the demo to the launch game is that there are a lot more enemies that are attacking you directly. And when I say attacking you directly, I mean that they're attacking you from any position. So even if you run across the map, you no longer can dodge them. This is a big change because in the demo, everything was just area of effects, right? And if you walked out of the area of effect, you took no damage. And one of the things that resulted in that made the game too easy, frankly, was that you could just run around. You spent most of your turns just doing a little bit of damage, running around in circles, and finding the point where you take 0, and then from that point you would basically complete every combat without taking damage. It was not ideal. Now, the difference here is that enemies run to you and swing at you from any position. So your HP is actually a resource. It can happen that you take damage in the first combats, or when you start a turn, you can be threatened for 50 plus damage or something like that. And it looks scary. You look at that and you go, wow, so much guaranteed damage. What could they have done? Why did they change this? And part of it is mentality. Think about other roguelike games that you've played. A lot of them have block cards. And a lot of them also have damage that's directed at you that you can't turn off. So a good example, think of Slay the Spire. In Slay the Spire, you have enemies that are hitting you for 6 or whatever on turn 1. You could be threatened for like 12 damage out of the gate, and that is technically guaranteed damage. But you have a tool for this. It's called a block card. You throw up the block and you take less damage, or you kill the enemy and they stop doing their attack, right? The same exact concept applies here. The difference is that where your block and defense comes from is not obvious. This is actually a communication error on the part of the game. People playing the game, they maybe start with the magma miner, for instance, why I'm on this guy, and they go, well, I do damage, I do damage, I do damage. Okay, so I try to kill guys, I kill a couple dudes, and then I take 1,000,000 damage. What happened? They don't realize that, and this is definitely an issue in the early access that needs to be telegraphed. They actually do have the quote-unquote block card. It is just baked into their heat. So the idea is you want to be cleaving enemies to generate 5 heat, which then puts up shield. And even if you do take some damage due to this, the idea is you kill a few guys and you put up the defense so you take 0. You have guaranteed healing at the end of every combat that I don't think people realize. Those little stat boosts, one of the choices is always a heal. And so the way you should think about it is, it's kind of like a Slay the Spire campfire in that respect. I'm likening this to roguelike deck builders because that's what I play, but you could think about this in terms of any other game that has a healing effect where you trade a few stats for it. Sometimes those stats matter, they won't in the end though. Generally speaking, a few common early game stat buffs like that, not going to be game changing. And so if you have to trade them for health, it's okay. So you basically get a campfire after every single combat, and you also have baked in defense here, as long as you realize how to get it. And all of the classes have something like that. Okay, the only one that I actually think doesn't is the Moss Cloak, but the Moss Cloak does get evades from various locations, so they're not in the default kit. This is actually something I think is a little weak about the Moss Cloak right now. I'm not going to get into it too much, but a lot of their upgrades, they have dash upgrades that give them shield and dash upgrades that give them evasion, which is very strong. So they have defense, it's just not baked into their initial kit. That said, I also think that they're the best suited for killing all the enemies on the early combats and taking 0 damage. Just kill all of them, it works. On the Weaver, you gain shielding for each one of the threads you have active. So this whole class is baked around shielding everything, or threading everything rather, and then gaining 3 shield at the beginning of your turn just for having done it. So there's that. You get the defense that way. The Obelisk gets defense simply by hitting a guy. On his 1 skill, you gain 1 shield. So just keep mashing this until you've either killed an enemy or you've gotten enough shield to take 0, or reduce it enough. And the Clairvoyant gets it as well by just moving the orb through herself. So the idea here is that you want to always intersect yourself with your own orb movement and you will get block. That's kind of the idea. These are not obvious. I think that this is a telegraphing issue in the game, but it's visual. I also think that it was important for them to threaten real damage on turns, right? You can't just walk out of everything. Oftentimes I found in the original demo that I was taking 0 in basically every combat and then would maybe get hit by the bosses, because of course the bosses had unavoidable stuff still. So it created this weird interaction that I don't think was great. It basically made the game feel too easy, and maybe it swung a little bit too hard, and they're looking at it. They've commented publicly in the Discord that their plan is to weaken the enemies and the direct attacks present in the bronze ranks, so the early ranks of the system. So if we kind of go over here, I think I might be able to find it. If I could remember what the keybind is for any of these. Yeah, so I'm on gold here, so I would expect to be taking a lot of hits at this level, but if you are on bronze, then, you know, the lower ranks, then you'd be able to take a lot less. They're working on that balance. I think right now there isn't as much difference between the low and high ranks as I would like, and they agree. So that's stuff they've posted publicly. You can find that if you want to search for their comments on their Discord server. I don't think it's that big of a deal. In fact, I think the damage buff from the demo is actually really important and good for the game. Okay, that was the first thing I wanted to address because guaranteed damage shows up a lot in this discussion. The second thing I want to talk about is the season stuff. So the cosmetic shop, and a lot of people see this and get very scared. But what I want to talk about is how it's actually a lot friendlier than I think it comes across. And I think that there are mistakes in communication as well here that make it look worse than it is. So the first thing I want to talk about is the entry point to this system. A lot of the comments that I see come up say or think that they're going to be advertising this at every single step, right? The truth is, you actually don't even interact with this system until, let me see if I can actually get to this screen. You don't even interact with this system until you hit season level 5, and you only get it by clicking this button in the middle here. The idea behind this is they don't want people to see the system until they've been playing for quite some time. The idea is you don't need this, and they're not trying to advertise it. It doesn't talk about it literally anywhere else. One thing from the demo that people might be thinking of is they wanted to make sure people knew that this system was coming. They didn't want to make sure people were blindsided by it. So in the demo, they did say, hey, by the way, there's going to be a battle pass system and a cosmetic shop. That did come up. They warned people. Warning is the wrong term. It assumes negative intent. But the truth is that they just said that, hey, this is going to be how we're running this game. It's a live service game. They didn't want people to be scared or confused when they saw it. So that came up in some reviews that were just like talking about the demo and didn't actually address the game in current state. So don't worry about that. The other thing, what really matters to me though, is that they're not even trying to get you into this system right away. They're not trying to advertise to you. And honestly, if you never clicked that button, you wouldn't even see this system ever. If you do click the button, you do see the system. But I mean, that also makes sense, right? If you start smashing every hotkey to find every single menu, yeah, you're gonna find it eventually. So there's that. The other thing, and I will bring this up for you, is if we go to escape and redeem code, they gave out for anyone who's playing early access, and they didn't say when this would expire, so it might never, but it's worth noting either way that there is a code, early access thanks, which is 300 free of the premium currency shinies. So if you own this game and you just go in here and you type early access thanks and then hit redeem, you will get 300 of them. And the reason I mention this is it was communicated on their Discord server. So I don't actually think that you might know about this if you didn't watch the Discord or play or watch their streams or something. I can't click because I've already done this. But you get 300. And that's relevant because in here, you also get 300 shinies, again, that's what the premium currency is called, for free by simply playing the game. And that's important because 300 plus 300 equals 600, and the battle pass itself costs only 600 shinies. This means, in case you're following along, that just by playing the game, you can get the entire battle pass for free, and the battle pass itself has additional shinies in it that pay for every future battle pass as long as you play the game. So let me say this another way. As long as you play the game, you get every battle pass for free. That's an important piece of information. You never have to spend money. You get all of these cosmetics. The way that I think about this personally, these are essentially in-game rewards at that stage. But they're in-game rewards where people can instead just buy shinies to get them too. And that means that eventually I'll get all this stuff and then I'll be able to sustain it and it'll be great. And there's a lot of cosmetics that are kind of cool as part of this, and I'm looking forward to that, including some emotes, whatever. I'm not trying to peddle whatever is in here at this point. I mean, I think some of it's pretty cool, but the fact that you can get it for free here and can sustain it for free over time is important. So that's a big deal. Another thing that I will bring attention to, they have a by-season level here. The way they described this on their public Discord is they've said that they did this because other games did it and it seemed like a nice catch-up kind of mechanic for people who wanted it. I don't think they realize that there is a stigma associated with this buying season levels, because then, I mean, they're not peddling it. It's actually easy to miss. I didn't realize this even existed for a while until someone pointed it out to me. But I think they're going to remove this because I don't think they realized that people had strong opinions about this. And so I think they're going to get rid of that. The idea that you could pay for progress. I've seen some arguments about that being a problem, so okay, fine. I think that's going away. This is also part of why early access is a thing. This is the next part of it that I want to discuss. A lot of people are commenting, why would you put a cash shop in an early access title? That's abusive, especially after you had to pay for the game. And the truth is, they did early access because they weren't sure how this stuff should look. And these things are gonna change. This game has been out, as far as my recording, for 3 days, and they're already talking about changes they're going to be making to the system in response to, one, feedback, but in response to, two, realizing that some things have stigma that they didn't know about. So they're already doing that stuff. And that leads into my next comment, which is the cosmetic shop. So the idea is a lot of people have concern, and rightfully so. I think that there is concern that, well, there's a fear of missing out, right? What if I miss this battle pass? What happens? I lose all of these cosmetics forever? No. And this is another thing that's not explained in game right now. So that is, telegraphing issue. But so I don't blame anyone for thinking that. But what they've confirmed is that, and they've actually been messaging this in the Discord for a while, so this isn't new, but they confirmed that at the end of a season, all of these rewards get moved into the permanent cosmetic shop. And so if I go over to the cosmetic shop, you can see that there are some tabs, there are some things that cost stuff, and so forth. Great. Now you'll notice that there are only 3 tabs for me. They actually have 17 tabs right now of cosmetics, and they rotate. This is another great example of first entry in a live support kind of game, and they made some missteps. So they did this with 3 out of the 17 because in early testing, they found that people got overwhelmed by a shop that had every option. That people would see 17 down here and go, whoa, what's going on? I'm confused. I can't find what I want. And so they said, oh, all right, well, what we'll do is what some other games do is they rotate this so that you never see too much. You don't get overwhelmed. But what they didn't realize is that there definitely is a level of fear of missing out here because you don't know when it's going to come back because it's a pure rotation. And especially later on when the season pass rewards move into the cosmetic shop, those tab numbers increase and it becomes harder to find the things you want. So this, they have confirmed publicly, is going to change. I don't know exactly what form it's going to take. My guess is that they're just going to turn on every tab for the time being, and hopefully eventually there's kind of like a searching, filtering tag system for this. Like applause would get tagged as emote, right? It already has this tag, but it would have emote on it. So if I searched for all emotes, it would come up. Or let's go over here. Yeah, sure. This shard globe thing, whatever this is. I guess this is it's one of those. Would get tagged as weapon and as clairvoyant, which means that if you search for those things, you would find it. Or if you search for one of those things, you would find it alongside some other stuff. I hope, based on what they've discussed, they haven't really confirmed this, but they've said that they're going to change this so that there is no rotation. And I have to assume that maybe my guess, again, is that it'll go to set all the tabs will be available all the time. So for now, you'll just be able to click through everything. And then eventually they add some kind of more sophisticated system. They admitted that this was a bit of a misstep. They didn't realize that there was a fear of missing out here and that they should have, looked and investigated that a little more. So I think they're getting bit definitely a little bit by just simply copying other games and not realizing what those things do. And having talked to them and heard them speak enough times, I have faith in this. I'm not worried about it. So I think the last thing I'll comment is people were concerned about this whole to be announced soon on the season ends. And, it's not clear how this is going to go. The messaging they've done on their Twitch streams actually is that it seems like this is going to be 3 months, which is a pretty standard time frame, I think, for one of these. And their goal is, and why they've been doing this the whole time, is they want to have a game that one sustains their existence as a studio for a little bit, for an extended period of time, and is easy for them to continually support. So the goal being that they're going to be announcing new features and stuff that come along with season 2, whatever the heck that is. I assume 3 months-ish. Okay. So that is, I think, everything I am planning to discuss here. I think that it is easy to look at these features and assume the worst because a lot of other games do the worst, or they get released and immediately you have things like, they're taking advantage of their customers, they're taking advantage of the users, they're using shady business practices, they're withholding features on the release in order to drip feed them to you via this day one DLC or whatever stuff. There are a lot of problems in the industry right now. And I think it's easy to look at this stuff and accept that there's a problem and just assume that there's a problem. And that's what's happening. A lot of YouTube content on this or a lot of Steam reviews on this are seeing these features, and look at them and go, oh, that's the bad thing, and then, immediately refund and immediately leave a negative review without looking into it more. And I don't want to call them wrong, because I do think that there are perception problems and there's telegraphing problems in this game as well, in the sense of you don't know, and most of the things I've described here you might not even realize. And because it's either on the Discord server or it's on their Twitch streams or it's just not messaged in here at all right now. And so there are definitely problems that come out of that. And, I think that some of the reviews are deserved in that respect, because I can't blame someone for not knowing. But one thing I do want to hopefully do with this video is give people that information. I've gotten a lot of questions about these things, like, what do I think? What do I know about this stuff? What's happening? And hopefully this answers that. So yeah, that is what is going on with Inkbound. In case you want my opinion, I actually recommend this game. A lot of people who watch my channel are watching it for roguelike deck builders, and they go, why do you like this game? And the way I describe it is it's a mix of Hades, which is a game I enjoy, and Into the Breach Tactical Combat, which is another game I enjoy. When you mix them together, you get kind of this unique amalgam, and I really can't say it's exactly like any other game because I've never played a game like this quite. But regardless, I've enjoyed it quite a bit, and I hope, would I recommend it? Yes. I think that the devs have proven themselves trustworthy, and until they do something that, destroys that or erodes that trust, I see no reason to assume the worst of them. They seem to be responsive here. They've explained a lot of things, and I've seen capabilities here, right? Like the fact that you can get the entire battle pass for free. I actually think that's a really important detail, but it's easy to completely miss all of that. You don't like the code that gives you the 300 is not in game. You have to click through the entire battle pass to even realize that it gives you 300 of these things in the first place. It's easy to miss, and I don't blame anyone. So, but no, now that I know, now that you know, maybe we can make more informed decisions about stuff. So that's kind of my whole take on this. Anyway, if you have questions about my opinion on the game in certain ways or what I think in any regard, please let me know in a comment or on the Discord server of myself. It's in the top right of my main channel. You can find it there. I'm happy to entertain discussions on this stuff. I'm obviously strongly opinionated, as I suppose most folks on the internet are, but at the same time, I think it's worth it to be informed, is the way I like to describe it. So, anyway, I'll let you go there. I guess I somehow managed to get 25 minutes out of this video. Terribly sorry about that. I did have a lot to say. So, hey, thanks a lot for watching this. I really appreciate your time. As always, you can give the video a like or a dislike if you want. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and stay tuned for what's next. Take care, folks.